playfulness and curiosity.
This new superpower called persuasion.
They're the rules of the world, and then here's the rules for us.
What does rich mean?
Stories and wisdom.
Welcome to the Stories and Wisdom podcast. Today we are joined by Laura Longcore. She's ex-vice president of the worldwide learning at Microsoft, where she led skills and training for enterprise customers, partners, academia, internal employees, and Microsoft's customer partner solution organization. And I think you spent over 26 years at Microsoft, Laura?
25 years, yeah.
25 years. Wow.
It's a long time.
And you've shaped global learning strategies, programs, and your work. I remember it's a lot of strategy, business marketing, but definitely around people. And I know you for 20 of those 25 years at Microsoft. So really excited to have you on our podcast, Laura.
You're dating us, Pradeep. You're dating us. Yes, 25 years at Microsoft. I finished my career in that learning and development side, did professional services for many, many years. Also worked in the product side of the business. So definitely had a kind of an MBA at Microsoft, if you will, because I did job rotations with marketing, services, sales, learning and development, field work, and engagement with customers on a regular basis. So yeah, 25 years of busyness and 20 of those with you.
And on that, because you pushed me on this and I couldn't take you up on that, like the field stint, like leave America, go explore all that. How come you didn't do that yourself? Like England, Australia for a couple of years, come back and then do that before the kids, or the kids were very small?
You know, I probably would have if I didn't have the family. I really loved working on a global basis. So that was one thing that was very important to me. And if you were embedded in one particular area, I thought it would have been hard to come back out to the corporate world. But I worked in the US field, if that counts. I mean, that's still close to the corporate side of the business. But my favorite jobs at Microsoft were always the global jobs.
I mean, it is true, like because our US field office is what, 10 minutes driving from the main office, but it felt like a completely different company culture.
Absolutely.
So it is very different, even though they're just like literally 10 minutes away.
Yeah, I would say that most big companies, I think the corporate side was a lot about setting strategy and direction. And then in the field, you have to make it come to life. And both of those jobs are hard. I think some people that have been in the field forever think that corporate jobs are easy and vice versa. I'd say they're both hard in their own ways. I think painting a vision and making sure you're staying ahead of the curve in a technology company can be super hard. And that was kind of the role of the corporate world. And then in the field side, of course, you're meeting customer needs. So having to apply that strategy and making sure you're meeting numbers on a quarter by quarter basis. And, you have all different kinds of pressure that I think created a lot of teamwork at the field level that I always loved and admired. And so I love those roles that I got to do both, where I could set strategy, but then I could have accountability for some of the field execution. And those were always fun roles for me because you kind of got to wear both hats.
Yeah, absolutely. And I remember being part of a few of those, and it was fun each time you connected with the field because you had a pseudo reach out to the customer, and that is very important. Otherwise, the strategies are just boxes on PowerPoint.
Absolutely. That's where the reality comes to life, right, is with the customer. And so you can have a beautiful strategy, but if it doesn't work with your customers, well, then you're back to the drawing board for sure.
So we're going to jump into our first segment. It's called Memoir Moment, Laura. So in Memoir Moment, we bring our guests to start sharing a story from earlier in life, which we were already getting into, but earlier in life, which shaped the way that you approach leadership or learning even today.
Yeah, it's funny because I was just talking about this with a very good friend of mine that I've known since I was about 8 years old. And we were just talking about things that shape you. And this is going to go way back to where I was in elementary school. We were part of this test or experiment, if you will, in our school around open classrooms. And what that meant at the time was literally we had no walls in our building. So all the classes free flowed, and it was a little chaotic because it was kind of coming and going all the time. But more importantly, the curriculum was one that while you were in a certain grade, you could test up and move up in different levels. So, for example, if you're in third grade, but you're capable of doing eighth grade math, you could do that. And so, a couple of things that I would say that shaped my thinking, not just from my own personal life, but also from my leadership style, I think that I learned through that experience was one was a little bit about self motivation, right? You had to have a little bit of drive to say, I'm going to continue to improve and try new things. And the second was really about challenging yourself and recognizing that people have innate skills, of course, things that they're good at, things that they will learn in an ongoing fashion, and that everybody kind of goes at a different pace. And I believe that that pace is dictated by the innate skills, plus the motivation, plus really the most important piece is taking action. Right. So those three things I think really shaped my thought process because I've always been one that just I like to compete with myself. So this format for school was really good for me. It wasn't like, for example, my sister hated it. She hated that format, but I love that format because it was something I could continuously be growing and building. I was always motivated by the challenge and I was also motivated by learning. So that has shaped my thinking as well. And then the doing part has always been super critical to me. And we talked about this just even talking about the field side. If you are just thinking, that's great, right? Like it's great to be having innovative thinking and stretching mind exercises, but the doing is super important as well. So I would say like that applied into my own personal life. It still does today. It applied into the way I led as well, because I really believe that everybody had different skills. Everybody's going to have different motivations and everybody's going to take action differently. And so when I look at that and I looked at the individuals, everybody's going to come from a different place and you have to meet people where they're at from a leadership perspective. And my perspective was, how fun is it to bring people with all these different motivations, different capabilities, and different desires on how fast they want to grow and get that action together as a team and really make progress together towards different business goals.
So the school that you're talking about, they did this for just your grade across all grades?
No, the whole elementary school. It was an experiment.
What?
Yeah, the whole elementary school. And so even, like I said, when I was like in fifth grade, I was doing high school math. And so imagine the chaos for the teachers having to teach different curriculums at different levels. By the way, they shut that program down shortly after I left out of that school. And this was based in the Chicagoland area. And I always thought it was a shame because I think it worked really well for some people. Again, not for everybody. I think for some people, if you didn't have that motivation or the desire to learn, it could be very, very difficult to thrive in that situation.
Yes, because now I'm going through the parenting journey and I'm in my second, third grade. I'm doing it for the second time. It's how it feels like. Even though I don't do the academic stuff, I can see that because I get into the classes and I go engage with all the other kids, but I'm doing painting and stuff, but not math or anything else. But I can see how people approach new ideas or new techniques or come in with like, I am not a painter. I'm like, you're a second grader. Everybody's a painter. Everybody can do anything. You don't put boundaries at this age.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that was really the goal of this program was to not put the boundaries on, right? That I think we tend to put upon ourselves as well as other people put upon you. But yeah, just to bring it back to the work story that you were talking about, when we were working together in a brand new organization, brand new opportunities in front of us, you could see how some of this background that I was just talking about could apply. Because I looked at it and said, okay, you and I are the team, right? What areas are you interested in that you want to grow and develop, right? And what's your motivation? And then what are we going to go do, right? And so that's kind of a great example where you can see that those themes kind of carried through my leadership journey.
It's fascinating because I can see how that could be stifling someone else. Then for me, when I was looking through my undergrad choices, I had choices, top schools within India. But I chose one in Singapore. It's no one there, like no family members, nothing. Dad gave me, I think, $200 and then said, hey, use this wisely for the few months. But when I went there, the first thing was not so much like I'm learning engineering in a new university. It was just like, what is this? This is not breakfast. Like the food itself, it was very different. I mean, Singapore food is awesome, but when you never really left the country, only had certain types of breakfast, and you believe that's what food looks like, and you're 16 going in, and suddenly you have salted fried fish like nasi lemak on a plate with pickle and rice, and you say like that's morning breakfast, and you're like, you don't eat rice in the morning, like this. And then I didn't have breakfast for a month, and like this doesn't work. But eventually, once I survived through that, when somebody says like, what do you want to do? I'm like, I have perspectives, and here's the thing. If you're given choices, I can pick one.
Right.
So I think the framework which you had set it up made it super easy. I'm like, I've done this before.
Yeah.
Done the aspect of choosing something that I have no clue in and then committing to it. That I've done. Not what you actually gave me. I had no clue in it, but I was like, she doesn't know. I don't know. We'll figure it out. I've done that part before.
But that was part of the fun, right? Like that's the learning,
Yes.
right? That's where the learning comes in, is we get to try new things, and a lot of things didn't work and some things did. And to me, that's always been the long game, is what tools are you learning as you're building new skills? Are you having fun along the way?
Yeah.
Right. And heck, that's life. That's not just work, right? That's are you learning and growing and continuing to challenge yourself, right? All those things very important.
Absolutely. And the hardest one in terms of, hey, go figure this out that you've never done before, or at least for me, was parenting.
Parenting, oh yes.
I'm not qualified for this. I don't have any classes for this. What is this? Let me try not to kill this was the first goal. I think we're doing fine. But that was the scary, okay, figure this out moment.
Yeah, I would say the thing I learned about as a parent and a leader was how interesting and transferable some of the skills were in both ways, right? Because I would learn things from my kids because they would be willing to try things that as adults sometimes we wouldn't, and try to apply those lessons into the workforce. And then also with my kids, I'd start coming home with things like, how can I performance manage them? And it doesn't really work that well as a parent. Yes.
So let's go on to our next segment. It's called Decision Do-Over. So are there any decisions that you made in your career that you'd want to talk through on how you might approach it differently now?
Yeah. I mean, at the macro level, it's kind of funny. This is, I don't really revisit like I should have done this or I should have done that. But of course, there's probably a million micro decisions I would have done differently. So let me just think about it. I think maybe a lesson I had along the way, it maybe isn't a complete do-over, but at Microsoft, I mentioned I was there 25 years, and I spent a good chunk of my time in the professional services organization, consulting and doing a lot of different roles there. I would say kind of my do-over might surprise you pretty, because I think I had a ton of success in the professional services area. And I did get to learn a lot through different roles and functions. But I would say probably my do-over was I probably stayed too long. And that all for me boiled down to loyalty. It was loyalty to the team that I was leading. It was loyalty to the manager I was working for. And I conscientiously made a decision to trade off some of that loyalty for my own development and growth. And in hindsight, I mean, I don't regret any of that loyalty decision, but I think I might have pushed on some different choices, because in hindsight, I think what happened was I wasn't learning as much personally. So I was getting a lot of energy from helping others learn, but I was not personally growing because I had done so many different roles in that organization. And I think if I had moved outside of that organization sooner, I would have probably had a different trajectory by the end of my career. And so it was a conscientious decision. It's not one I regret, but it is kind of a good lesson learned. Like, I think loyalty is amazing. I'm very loyal to the people that have worked for me, that I've worked with, the company through all of my career. And so it's kind of ironic that I'm saying, like, maybe be less loyal. But I think what I'm saying instead is be loyal to yourself as well. And so I probably would have made that move a little earlier.
You're bringing a very important point, and I want to add on because I know the gang you're talking about because I still hang out with many of them or ping them. We know several of them. And that's a very rare thing. And I can't say that in the world of AI, that will be a thing. The decision that you did not make or you're talking about, I think you pushed me towards that decision that you couldn't take. Because there was a point when you literally said, like, hey, you'll be a director very soon. It's imminent, but do you want it to be in this org? And I was very clear. And I said, like, of course. Because I was leaning into like the people, you, Norm, and then everybody else there. And I'm like, I'm doing really well here. Why would I say no to a promo and a career track, which is very clean? And you said, wrong answer. Go think and reflect about it. Like, what? That's the first time I think you've ever pushed back. And this was not the crazy idea. You've never pushed me with any other crazier ideas, which I've had. This was the first time, and I respected you enough to like, okay, let me go think. And you actually had me talk with their CTO, who literally said, like, have you considered design? I'm like, I've never done design, though. Consider it. And then this was in the I'm a PC, I'm a Mac era where UI was not Microsoft. It was not its thing. Functional compared to functional engineering led compared to a design user centric experience. And I managed to get a design role in an innovation studio. And I can say like Microsoft paid for my design experience, just like it paid for your MBA experience. And I think that took me on a different path where I started to understand it's not just focus groups and data. There's ethnography and empathy that users might not be able to talk. They can share pains. They might not talk features and wants like we were used to talking with the field and B2B customers. And I think I'm on the path because you pulled me on it. But what was a hard decision for me was the loyalty, missing out on all the relationships that you built. But I had you and Norm to actually push me towards like, no, go. And if it doesn't work, we are here, but it worked in very different ways. And I want to ask you, like, was that hard for you? Because it was hard for you to do that, but was it hard for you to actually send out somebody on that into doing that? Because it felt like it was a risk on your end too. Now that as a leader, when I'm looking at the team, because I do similar things for those kind of decisions for others. And I take that as like you role model that. But for you at that point, was that something you've done before? Or was that hard for you in terms of saying, no, go? Because for you as a decision, you didn't do that yourself.
Right. Maybe I'll take it back to the parenting thing, right? Because the group we had, especially at that time, was like a family, right? And when you're looking at the skills and ambitions and the actions that people want to go take, right? Everybody's different. And for you, it was like clear to me, and I think also to Norm, who was our collective boss at that time, that you had a lot of skills and a lot of ideas and entrepreneurship and energy around creating, right? And Norm and I had both been in the professional services side for a while. And you get to be creative. You're problem solving, but it's different than being innovative and creating new products and new design thinking and things like that. And so I think that what I would say is it wasn't hard for me because I was like, hey, these are some skills you should go develop. And you will have them in your bag of tools. And to your point, if you don't like it, you can do something else, right? And so I kind of think that way with my own kids. You know what? Life is a series of experiences. And what do you take away from that? Good, bad, or otherwise, right? You learn about yourself and you learn what you're good at and you learn what you like or what you don't like. But the only way to do it is to go do it. And that's why I called it my decision do-over, I guess, is that I could clearly see it for other people. And at the time for myself, I was so locked into other people that I didn't look at it for myself.
Thanks for the clarity, because many times when you're leaders, for others is clearer, but the self-care is a hard thing to do, which you're bringing up, which is a blind spot for, in your case, I'll go to use like servant style leadership. It is a hard thing to make. And I wanted to like bring that in with an example and then grounding that, because it is a good learning for all of us as we explore our own journeys.
Yeah.
Our next segment is called Vision Venture. So what is up ahead for you? Like, what direction, project, new skills, new learning? What are you going to do next? It could be a 3-year horizon, 5-year horizon, just using the same experience pillars that you described and how you think through for your vision venture.
Yeah, this one is definitely something I'm struggling with. I'm a little over a year of retired from Microsoft now, and I've been in the process of unlearning things. And that's super challenging for me because I am a action-oriented, community-focused, like people around that are thinking big thoughts and working towards a common goal and objective. And I'm not trying to unlearn all that, but I am trying to unlearn how to go at the same pace. Right. And so retirement's been an interesting challenge so far. I love it in the summertime. I'm very busy. I'm outdoorsy. I've taken up golf like crazy, like way too embarrassing how much golf I'm doing right now. But the thing that I still say, if people ask me, like, how's retirement going? I said, oh, it's great because I don't have to set an alarm. I'm doing all the things I want to do, especially in the summertime and traveling and things like that. It's so nice to just to be able to go travel at the drop of a hat without any worry about what your calendar's looking like. But the thing I miss is the mental challenge and having those goal orientation and working as a team. And so right now, probably the biggest challenge I'm facing is figuring out what is going to be the thing I put my energy behind. I made a commitment to my husband when I retired that the first 12 months I would not work. So I've succeeded. Check. I've done that. And I don't want to go back full time, but I want to find something that I can be passionate about. And it can be in any arena right now, really. It can be business, nonprofit, something that I can just go add value. I've been doing a lot of executive coaching and I appreciate that, but I don't want it to be like 40 hours a week. And so I'm still figuring it out. I'd say that's kind of the challenge, the short-term challenge in front of me is where to spend my energy on that. I do like the giving back aspect of like coaching. I like helping others that are starting to try to get into their own business, but I haven't quite found the niche yet. I've done several things that I've put my toe in the water where I'm experimenting, but haven't found the driver yet of the thing I really want to go do.
You're kind of focusing on here's my world and I'm going to make this world. And then you bring in people and then context. But now in retirement, are you thinking more like, here's the one thing I'm going to put all my energy into? Or is it a portfolio or work, which my energy is going to be distributed? Maybe it's in the category. Like, for example, you could go teach like adjunct professor stuff in addition to exec coaching. And then you can write a book and have a podcast. But it can all be in the same category space, which feeds off each other, but lines up. And that's just an example of a solution for what you're going. How are you thinking about this?
It probably will be more portfolio. Otherwise, I get bored. I started doing a little bit too much executive coaching, I think. And suddenly I was like, okay, I think I need to dial it back because I don't feel like I'm giving as much of what I want to do because it started to feel more like an assembly line instead of the engagement with the people that I wanted to do. Right. And so, yeah, I think portfolio is probably the way that I will look moving forward. But yeah, I'm still debating over where to apply the energy.
And how are you going to be looking to get to an answer? Are you going to try, do, work back, or think?
For sure. I mean, that's just my DNA, right?
Yes.
That I'm going to experiment. I'm going to go try some things, see what I like, see what I don't like, and move forward from there. And so, yeah, I don't think I can break that. I think that's part of who I am, and it'll probably be part of who I am forever. So, I think it'll definitely be that style of approach. And already, even in the first year, while I haven't been working, I have been doing some volunteer stuff. And I can definitely tell you that there's things that I was like, okay, that gave me more meaning than other things that I've done. And so I've already been kind of experimenting with some things.
The reason I'm spending a bit more time on this is I get a lot of students who are mentoring or even like early stage career or mid stage career that we mentor. And it's always like work towards retirement and then, you're free or you're done. Then if you've actually had a good career where retirement starts to make sense financially or even in terms of where you'd want to be, then you're stuck with but I'm mentally not getting engaged. And this is feeling very different than, like you meet the finish line, sure you celebrate. In your case, there was the peak telling you 1 year, not doing anything else. But then you go like, okay, is my 1 year done? Okay, when do I check the box so that I can go do other things? And it is a challenge that I've had conversations with others and they bring this up. So it's important to kind of like even set up the portfolio of like, what do I do after retirement or during?
For sure. In hindsight, I wish I would have done more planning. I think people think mainly about financial planning when they think about retirement. And that to me has just been, of course, you had to do that because you have to be able to meet that criteria that you're going to be able to survive and thrive and do the things you want to do financially. Um, but for me, the bigger challenge is your time, right? And where do you want to spend that time and the energy? And that's where I think I've heard people say different things. Some people are like, you should have the roadmap, you should know what you want to go do. And here's the 10 things, that you've got lined up and you might go like this but be open because things will change and you'll want to do different things, right? And I've heard the philosophy of no, if you are financially capable and you're ready to leave your work behind, leave. And some of those things will just happen. You'll start exploring different things and you'll experiment, like I was talking about. I think I'm down that second path. I've not been the one that was like, I knew my direct path. But yeah, I think there's a lot to wrestle with while people are thinking about retirement. There's obviously the financial side, and that is first and foremost for most people. There is the what are you going to do with your mind and intellect and time. There's also like the community side. I think that's the other super important piece that walking out the door of Microsoft, of course, I still keep in touch with so many people because I had that family, but you're not having that day in, day out. And so suddenly, like creating new social circles becomes very important and, good for your health too, right? To be creating those social connections. So, golf, I was saying I'm doing a lot of golf, and suddenly I'm finding myself with a whole new group of friends that I didn't know I had or would have had because I got deeper engaged in golf. So it's funny how those kind of communities will emerge as well.
Oh, there's your handicap, but no.
I'm not telling that.
Oh, you're not telling that.
All I'll tell you is it's like 10 strokes better than last year. So,
Okay, there you go.
yeah, I play at a pretty hard golf course, but yeah, I'm getting better every day.
That's pretty much how what annual reports are written. Like we're better than before.
Yeah, exactly.
And in golf, we're not competing, so it doesn't matter where the industry is going.
Yeah, you
Or
didn't
where
ask
people
for
are.
this question, but I will tell you, like, I do feel I am every day on the golf course, I am learning things about myself and who I am on the golf course that kind of mirror and parallel life. Like, I would have never made a connection about golf, about this, until you're doing it frequently enough. And I am still very competitive with myself, nobody else. I don't care what anybody else is doing, but with myself. I have learned to lower my expectations, which is super hard for me because I've always set very high expectations. Probably the biggest challenge I'm facing in golf this year is to play the stroke you're on and not be revisiting the one you just messed up or thinking about the score for the next 8 holes, right? So actually living in the now is a super hard life lesson I'm learning as part of, and golf is helping me. So that's good.
I gave up golf super early on because apart from the skills and strokes, the inner game was too intense for me to go to. Like I'd rather go play tennis where it's faster and there is a second serve or a bigger point to like get around to build the game. Like you always have a next one. Golf felt more merciless.
It's brutal. It's brutal.
And you have only two yours to blame. You can't just say like, oh, that was a higher kick topspin or he hit faster. Like you can always throw it on the opponent did better on tennis.
Yes.
Golf was merciless significantly.
Yeah, I could spend a lot of time with you on this. That you mentioned the inner game. I'm sure you probably have read The Inner Game of Tennis.
No,
If you haven't read it, there's a book. I think it's called The Inner Game. And he also did a follow-on book on golf. That's been helping a lot because you know what's going on, but you don't really know what's going on until you start observing. And you're right, golf can be brutal because it's only you out there. That's all you've got.
I think we should move to puzzle point with this nugget. So our next section is called puzzle point. And puzzle point is about questions that you're still exploring, but from the different edges of your work and then where you're going. It can be golf, but then the inner game is where I think we went to. And also how you're exploring, your retirement, how you're navigating that. So while you're navigating retirement and your golf game and your inner game, how are you balancing all the priorities, skills, the learning that you'd want to do, and well, I've retired, so I need to coast as well, or even the expected notion that you shall coast, even though I don't see you or me being coasters. Like we are constantly learn, do people, but at a retirement, you're expected to, back heels, coast, and that feels, even to think through, like it's a much harder thing to just, how shall I coast the best that I can coast out there? And I'm like, that's the wrong way to frame this. And I can see you kind of in a similar boat. You can tell me I'm completely wrong, but let's talk about that as plus a point for you, because we've already tackled this.
Yeah. I mean, I think to just keep going on the inner game thing, I think that is part of the challenge in front of you is to say, "Hey, hopefully I've got a lot more years in front of me." And so I kind of try to look at my day as what am I doing for my health and fitness? That's a big part of what I do, and doesn't mean I'm like out trying to break some records and, the Masters Championship of anything, but I definitely spend time working on something physical every single day. And that could be weightlifting, it could be riding my Peloton bike, it could be golfing, it could be walking, it could be doing anything. Pilates. Yeah, that's a new one for me. I'm doing Pilates. So I always have that carved out in my day. And I always have some time carved out just for my family. Like I'm a brand new grandma. And so whenever I can get a chance to go see my grandson, I'm all over that. And so spending time with him and with my broader family is very, very important to me and my friends and family altogether. So that social side is another way that I try to make sure that at least something during the day I'm doing for that. And then the learning and the using your brain a little bit more, that right now is coming in different spaces to me. It's about reading a lot. I'm trying to learn Italian for an upcoming trip I'm taking. And so Duolingo is my friend right now. And like I've been saying, I've been helping with executive coaching and I've been helping with some business startup work, things like that. And so I just kind of throughout the day, I try to make sure I'm touching on each of those aspects. A, so I'm not bored, right? And B, because those are the things that currently are interesting me and it'll change as time goes by. But I think those categories are going to stay the same. It'll always be like doing something physical, there'll be doing something with the family, and there'll be doing something for my brain and mental health as well that will always be in my day to day. But then when you talk about the inner game now, sometimes what gets challenging is I'm used to being productive. And that's what I was saying. I think you're saying also is this coasting thing. That's not in my blood. And so my husband would tell you that I've invented a lot of projects for us um, just because I can't coast. I need to demonstrate some productivity. We had a garage cleaning exercise this spring. It took us forever. But you know what? Our house is clean again, right? And things like that. So there is this inner game thing that I have to quiet a little bit is saying productivity looks different now in retirement. It doesn't look like I have to hit a quarterly number anymore or I'm giving so many performance reviews for the people that I've been working with. It's much more learning what's going to bring me joy and spark my interests and take care of those around me and then take care of myself because I want my retirement years to be long, healthy, and, engaging, I guess is what I would say.
And thanks for sharing that. Like, if I'm parsing what you just said, you lent on you being a doer, and therefore you cut down the days into sections that you care about on what I can do in this section, that section, be very thoughtful about the list of things that you're going to do every, like, again, very much list do style approach of here's what I'm going to do. And, but even the way you were describing the inner game, like here's what I can do, and then here's what I'm going to do. But when you closed out with it, it's trying to like maximizing happiness for people around me and impact for them with me in this context. that's not a retirement thing. I feel like that is something that you were doing even before. Because I ask this because it shouldn't feel like others are going like, I have to wait till retirement to prioritize those. Because I know you made decisions around Joe's baseball schedule, like career decisions or even meetings you would go to or not, or countries that you would visit or not because of summer baseball schedules or, and then so on. I remember that and then going like, what? Should I learn this or ignore this? I ended up learning it because it was a career decision that I'm looking to like, this is very different to what we were brought up in terms of how you would make choices. So for you to actually say that, like, I'm even more doing that now, I'm just reflecting on like, but you were doing that way before retirement as well. The people around you thinking and then go there. Just highlighting that for others who might think that, you had to wait on retirement to do this.
Yeah, you definitely don't write down retirement. And I mean, if you ask anybody, they're going to, like, if you ask them what's their priority, they're going to say family first, right? But how do you live that and show up? I think is really important. And for me, like you said, Pradeep, there's things I'd say, sorry, I have to go. It's 3 in the afternoon. I know we're in the middle of a meeting, but I'm going to go watch my son play baseball or my other son play hockey because I thought it was super important to have presence, even though I was on a pretty demanding executive career path, right? So it was very important to me that my children and my family knew me and not just, oh, my mom was off working all the time. So it was a lot about making some of those trade-offs. And you're right that it didn't start in retirement. It's just now changing a bit more in retirement that I can lean in and help out. In some cases, I can offer some of my time that I didn't have as freely. And not just with my immediate family, but my friends and my broader family as well. Because that is, I mean, at the end of the day, those are your most critical relationships, right? And they're the ones, when you walk away from work, there's going to be a lot of relationships you thought that were strong relationships, and suddenly they're not there anymore, right? But those family and those close inner circle friends, those relationships continue. And I think they have to be reciprocated, right? Like relationships that are one way typically don't go very long. And so, how do you feed them on a daily basis? That's the question.
Yeah, I think the relationship flywheel that you're mentioning, I think is what we'll leave the puzzle break at. Like, I think that's a big, huge takeaway. So, Laura, now it's the last segment, and this is an easy one. It's a game break. You worked with me enough to know there's always games involved too. This is called This or That. It's the Laura Longcore edition. So it's going to be a lightning round, and I'm going to give you A or B option, and then you just choose whatever feels more you. Okay. First one, big picture or detailed oriented?
Detail.
Formal classroom or on-the-job learning? Oh, this is an easy one.
On the job learning. You could answer that one for me.
I know. Build from scratch or improve what exists?
Gosh, these are hard ones. Build from scratch and then improve on existing. How's that?
I'm surprised when you said that because I feel like you've been in roles where you're improving what exists largely, but
Yeah.
then you build from scratch anyway. Like bring it down to the first principles.
Yeah, I think build from scratch it's always through the eyes that you're looking for. It doesn't have to be a brand new innovation, right?
Yeah.
And so I guess that was where my mindset went is even if something is in existence for a long, long time, you can build something new to add to it, to change it, to improve it. Yeah.
The reason I went there is to clarify, right? The build from scratch might be the drug that entrepreneurship sells to a lot of people, but then they view that like, no, whatever you're in, you can go to the fundamentals and then build from scratch. And there's a lot of innovation that can be done there. Like that's what I've seen you do. So when you went to build from scratch, I was curious and I felt like you had to double down on it. Clarify.
Definitely.
Because most of us are in scenarios where we have to improve what exists and they might feel like, oh, I want to innovate. Man, you can. Everyone can.
You can definitely innovate in any role you're in, right?
Data-driven or intuition-led?
Intuition.
Even though you leverage data for a lot of things.
Both, you're giving me hard ones. Like
Yes.
this is like degrees. If I could give you like a 90-10 or that would be different.
This is me reading it for the first time. So this is Sneh who does homework,
Yeah.
research on our guests. Then we come back with like, what is parts where we know this is the person's
They're going to be hard.
style,
Yeah.
but then they're going to be struggling in.
Yeah.
Let's have discussions.
You didn't ask me like red or blue, or chocolate or vanilla.
Yeah, well, I should probably put, the Bears or the Seahawks.
Oh,
Stuff
I
like that.
think more the Seahawks these days.
Yeah, you have better fan following here, but you have family there.
Yeah. Now don't go Cubs Mariners because then that one's harder for me.
That's a harder one. Okay, teaching others or learning yourself.
Teaching others.
Okay, Laura, thank you for sharing your stories and insights today on the Stories and Wisdom podcast. For people who are, still exploring what you do, your work, or connect with you, where would they find you?
LinkedIn is probably still the best place. And thanks, Pradeep. It's been a lot of fun just kind of rehashing through a career and fun times we had together working together too. So I totally appreciate that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like your career is a reminder that building skills isn't just about the workplace. It's about, the people and thriving in with them. But also I felt like that was a very good freedom with constraints to create, because you need that tension, and it's very hard to hold that tension where you don't feel constrained, but also don't completely go confusing yourself because you could just go create and go nowhere. And that's a balance that I've tried to learn and emulate and then go in, but very different way of doing it. So thank you for showing us that, and also how you're thinking through retirement and life in general. So thank you, Laura, for being on the Stories and Wisdom podcast.
Absolutely. Thanks, Pradeep.
To everyone listening, we'll be back soon with more stories, more questions, and more wisdom with more of our awesome guests.
Playfulness and curiosity.
This new superpower called
They're
persuasion.
the rules of the world, and then here's the rules for us.
Real deep pink.
That was a very different level of inequity.
What does rich mean?